Hello everyone, welcome to another Kaedim Office Hours. So let's just wait for a few more people. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. So to start off, I wanted to show everyone our new showcase page if you haven't seen it already. This is where we showcase a variety of assets in different generation qualities. So here you can compare the different qualities and see what Kaedim is able to generate with different objects and characters. So for example, this is on our high quality, which is the second generation quality. And the highest quality that we offer is ultra, which is for more complex images. And from here, you can go to your account or sign up and log in. And you'll be directed to the assets page. And we've gotten a lot of questions about rigging. While we don't have auto rigging, it is on our roadmap, but for now we advise that if you want to rig any of your characters from Kaedim, then you should submit the input images in an A or T pose. Let me see if I can find an example. Here. So this is a character that I was able to rig and animate, and I submitted multiple images. So I created a character turnaround, and I had her posed in a T-pose like this, and that just made it easier to rig and animate later on. And if you do submit a character that isn't in T or A pose, you have the option to choose iterate model and draw the edits that you want to make and describe it in here, but it isn't guaranteed that we'll be able to edit the model. So let's see. What are the different types of texturing that you offer? So we have different texturing styles. We have projection, stylized, and PBR. So I have a few examples here. These doors are textured through PBR, and this is for more realistic textures like wood and metal. So these are more for realistic materials. And PBR creates normal maps for your models, so that's why it gives that more realistic texturing. And we also have stylized. So for this, the colors are more flat. This is best for simple characters or objects. It chooses the main color from the separate meshes and applies that to the mesh. So as you can see here. And we also have projection texturing, which this is better for if you have orthographic views of your model. And for this example, I had a straight-on view of the blaster, and so it projects the image directly onto your model. And you have the option to also upload a back view. Otherwise, it creates a monochrome mesh like this, and it basically applies flat colors to the back of the mesh if you don't provide a back view. Can you generate opacity maps for an item like a rattan chair that has a mesh back? Currently, I would try PBR for that. I'm not sure about opacity maps, but we can get back to you on that. We do have different materials within Kaedim. So for example, this model was textured using the fill color tool. So here you can select a mesh, change the colors, and you can choose from different color effects as well. So we have metallic, glossy, which gives you this transparent, shiny material. We have mirror, and matte is our default, transparent, and glossy metal. So once you've saved that and download your model, you'll be able to either download the textured OBJ or the FBX, and the color will be downloaded along with your model. And once you import that into another program like Blender, you'll be able to see the colors attached to your model. For a highly detailed sofa model that has many creases and folds, can your AI engine create a low poly model and bake that normal map from the high poly model to retain all the crease details? Yes, absolutely. So let me see if I have an example. We have a sofa in our showcase, which was generated in Ultra. So as you can see, all of the details are sculpted in. What you can do is use our generate LODs feature, which will create a low poly version of your model. So for example, the current poly count is 296,000. You can input something like 150,000 and create a lower poly version of this model. So once you have both of those versions, you'll be able to bake the normal maps from the high poly model to the low poly model. And all of the versions created will be available here. So let me see if I have an example of that. Every edit that you make to your model will be saved as a new version, so you can view all of that in the history. So for example, this was generated and I iterated it to have a crown instead of a hat on top of his head. So that was saved as a new model, and you can download them individually. We also have add-ons for LODs. So this enables you to create 3 LODs for all of the assets that you make within Kaedim, and it automatically applies to all of the assets. So you can just input your target poly counts here and click submit. And once you have that add-on with all the assets that you've generated, you'll be able to see all of the different LOD versions under history. Is it possible to share the wireframe mesh of that table with the normal map applied? I'm not sure if I understand. Oh, do you mean have a lower LOD of this table with the normal map applied from the higher LOD? You are able to share assets by clicking on this and enabling sharing, and you'll be able to share that asset, and this is what the 3D viewer will look like. So this won't be downloadable, but it is viewable even if you don't have a Kaedim account. Yes, we can definitely share. We can share an asset after the stream. Is there any asset in particular that you'd want to see with different LODs? I think a better example would probably be the sofa, just because it has a lot of details sculpted in. So we can definitely provide that for you after the stream. When creating a model with a non-forward-facing character image, is there an option to make the output model symmetrical and an option to make output model face the front? So if you usually, for example, this character, it will be modeled as accurate to the image. So we do advise that you submit an already front-facing image such as this. You might be able to adjust it afterwards with our iterate model feature, but we also have a symmetry checkbox here that you can click on, which makes the output model symmetrical. But yes, for now, the models will generate exactly as the input image. For this character, for example, I submitted it, which the character was on an angle, but I submitted it with the symmetry checkbox checked. So it came out like this. So it's definitely possible. And another feature that I wanted to show was our text to 3D. So this image generator does not require any credits. It generates an image for you, and you'll have to fill out the generation settings before it generates a 3D model. We're currently working on making this more clear, so we apologize for all of the confusion. But for example, if we wanted to generate a potted plant on a simple background. So you can generate as many images as you'd like. This doesn't cost any credits. And so you can keep regenerating the image if you aren't happy with the results. And once you do like the image that is generated, then you can set all of the generation settings and click generate. If you are generating characters with DALL-E or another image generator, we recommend adding to the prompt for the character to face the camera straight on. I use that for this model, and it was able to give me a turnaround of a character in orthographic view. And this is really helpful for rigging and to make sure that it's symmetrical as well. We need this preview function for 3D models. Do you mean the shareable link, or we are able to share assets like this, which you'll be able to view? I can actually drop this link in the chat for you guys to be able to view it. Let me know if that works for everyone. So here you can see the inputs, dimensions, and wireframe. But again, this isn't downloadable. It's just a 3D viewer. Are there any assets that you guys would like to see for us to generate? This is another asset that I made. So I generated this image and it created this 3D model, and I used the iterate model feature, uploaded a new image, and encircled the stairs. And in the text box, I specified to add the staircase underneath the building. And so you can edit your models this way as well and add on to it. If I have an image I want to generate, I want to know the difference between the 3 different detail levels. Currently, we don't have a preview feature for the different detail levels. We do have the showcase and compare qualities here for you to be able to kind of see the differences between the different generation levels. And if you are unsatisfied with your model, you can always talk to our support team on Discord, and they're always happy to help with any improvements that you'd like to be made to your model. A rattan style vase. Okay, let's see if we'll be able to generate that. Does this look good for you? You can also input the height, so if you want a specific height for your model. And we have standard, high, and ultra. So we can go with ultra for this just because we want all of the texture from the vase. And we can also click on symmetry to make sure that it's symmetrical. Let's go ahead and generate that. And a pair of hanging jeans. Okay, let's see. Okay, we can generate this and use the texturing feature to add on the texture for the jeans. Another thing to note for generations, okay, hold on. Another thing to note for the generations such as the vase, that is very high detail, you can also use our auto texturing. You can generate it on standard and use our texturing feature to generate the textures so that you don't need to use ultra as well. So we can do that for this example. We will generate it on standard. And try the texturing feature on that as well. So if you're generating multiple assets at once, they will generate one after the other, so they don't generate simultaneously. Does your AI engine produce a quad mesh by default, or does an artist quadrify the mesh from the AI generated model? So it depends. It depends on the model that it generates, but usually it does produce a quad mesh. A collada export would also be very helpful. That's definitely something we can look into. How can we join the Discord? Do we have to subscribe to a plan first? Yes, our Discord is available for the plans from starter to studio. And I think the Discord is very helpful because we have 24/7 support, and our team will be able to help you directly on any of your models. So I do think it is very helpful, especially if you have any questions about how to use specific features. We can definitely help you out. Are there any features that you guys would like to see in the future? How do the plugins work? Okay, so for plugins, you can we have a step-by-step on our documentation on how to use the plugins. So for this, you'll need your dev ID and your API key, which you can find under settings. And if you click on API keys, you can generate the keys from here and paste that onto the Kaedim extension. You will have to download the code for this, so you can just go to the linked over here on GitHub and download the zip file, and from there you'll be able to import that into Omniverse, Unity, Blender, or Unreal Engine. And once you've pasted in those API keys, you'll be able to import your assets or create new assets within that program. Does the texturing just do basic colors or is it detailed on the quality I selected? I generated models before but without textures. So it depends on the texturing style that you've chosen. So for example, PBR produces very highly detailed textures. And for the stylized and projection, for projection, it depends on the image that you provide for texturing. So for this, there's some detail, and so that is projected onto the model. For stylized, this is for less detailed textures. So as you can see, it's more of like a monochrome texture with a few details. Yes, MT, we are looking into our auto rigging feature, but we'd like to improve our current features first before adding on to the auto rig. But we have gotten a lot of suggestions for auto rigging, so we're definitely looking into that. So for our customer support on Discord, we understand that sometimes it takes a while, but sometimes the platform is very busy, and so it might take a bit longer to get a response. But we're definitely working on responding as soon as possible. And yes, as Constantina has mentioned, we've upgraded our support system. So you should be receiving responses within minutes. So for our UV unwrap feature, you'll have to enable it in add-ons, and this gives you automatic UV unwrapping, and you can use it for however many times you need to, as well as for automatic texturing. So UV unwrapping is really useful for if you want to texture your models outside of Kaedim, and this just makes it easier for you to be able to paint on your textures without having to do the UV unwrap manually. And once you unwrap your model, you'll be able to download it with the UV map. And that just makes it really easy for texturing. And we are always listening and looking for your feedback and suggestions. And one thing I would like to note is we do have a working on page in our documentation that you can check out. We also log all of our releases on here so that you are always updated on all of our newest features and additions to the app. So currently we're working on being able to upload images of entire scenes and being able to generate them. So currently in our documentation for our input guidelines, it requires that your input image is a single object. So we're working on our users being able to submit input images like this and be able to generate an entire scene. Yes, our jeans should be ready in a little bit. Let's wait a while longer. We're also working on a marketplace where you can download and remix other 3D assets from fellow Kaedim users. And we're really excited for this one because you'll be able to share your assets to the marketplace and also be able to add assets to your library from the marketplace. Will you generate a new character today? Yes, we can generate a new character. What type of character would you like to see? We're also working on a new feature called projects where you can where you can set up the settings for your assets and customize them and be able to generate assets within those guidelines. So this is really useful if you have a specific art style that you want to adhere to, or if you want a certain look for all of your generated assets. Draw something freehand. We can do that. How much would an entire scene cost? So since we're still, developing this, we will have an update in the future for the specifics, but for now we're not sure on those specifics yet, but we will be sure to update our documentation and all of our socials to make sure that everything is clear. Let's see, I don't have access to pen and paper right now, but let's see if we can generate something. Cartoon. Hand drawn any character. Simple. Next time I will try to draw something freehand and generate that, but we do have some examples of that in our social media as well. If I generate a character, how many times can I change it till it perfectly till it's perfect for me? How many times can I edit with one credit? So we do have our iteration feature, which does cost 1 credit. If the model isn't up to our standards, you can always contact the support team on our Discord. But otherwise, you'll have to use the iterate model feature for any design changes. Let's try to regenerate an image. I would love to be a test for full scenes. Yes, that's good to know. We'll definitely keep you in mind for when we have that ready. Okay, this is getting closer to Actually, I think this is, the feet are cut off though, so let's try to regenerate. How is everyone using Kaedim? What are you mostly generating? Is it characters, furniture? Okay, let's do this one. Yes, if you're not satisfied with the quality or accuracy, our customer support team, you can definitely reach out to our customer support team on Discord, and we'll be able to improve your character. And if you are regenerating a lot of images but want to keep one of them for a future generation, we do have an option to save that image to your assets. Let's see. These are... So ideally for the input image, you'd want just a single character to ensure that it will be processed properly. So again, generating images does not cost any credits, so you can regenerate as much as you'd like until you're happy with the image. Okay, let's try it on this one. And let's try it out on high, just because he has some details like the hair. Are there any features that you guys are confused about or would want to learn more about? And you can also submit or upload your own 3D models to Kaedim, as long as it's an FBX file and it's not over 50 MB. And this just allows you to use any of the features in our 3D Studio on your 3D models. So you can also edit and iterate your models once you've uploaded them to Kaedim. So this is what the rattan base looks like. Another way you could have, we could have generated this was on standard. So with a standard generation, you won't get all of these details in the mesh, but you will be able to use automatic texturing to apply the details from your input image onto the mesh. So if you want a more low poly model, this is a good method to to get that high detailed look. Fill color, yes. So our fill color feature is free, and you can select any of the meshes and apply colors to them. And you can also apply different textures. So since our model is mostly one color and material, you can see that the mesh is separated. So something that you can do is use our merge feature, which is also free to use. Select all of the meshes. So with this feature, you can select certain meshes or click here to select all of them to merge it into one mesh. So we can try that with this one. And these are the genes that we generated on standard. As you can see, the details like the wrinkles aren't sculpted in just because it is a standard generation. Looks good, but is high poly. If we wanted to flatten each strand of rattan to reduce the poly count, is that easy to do with an low LOD version? So as I mentioned, you can merge all of the meshes. As you can see, they're all one mesh now, and you can then color it all at once. And yes, you can use generate LODs to produce a low LOD version. So we can try that out on this mesh. Uh-oh. Okay, looks like one of our requests was not able to generate. It's probably because we had another image here. So if we wanted to generate this object, we'll probably have to crop this out and have just the single image. But for this vase, the current poly count is 128. So if we wanted to lower that to 90,000, we can input the target poly count here, and it does cost 1 credit, and you can click submit. For all these features. If you generate an object from a picture that has shadow, it won't paint the shadow on the texture. So if you generate from an image like this and it has the shadows in the input image, if you use projection texturing, which would be best for an orthographic image, and this one is sort of on an angle, so it would be better if the genes were facing straight on, but it does bake those shadows onto the texture because projection basically just pulls from the input image and pastes that directly onto the model. Need the undo for merge. Yes, so we do have all of the versions saved here. So if you wanted to view your model before it was merged, you can go to history under the assets card view and click the first version, and your meshes will still be separated as in the original. If we are using your API to receive the models, is there a way to automate merging meshes that share the same material versus doing it manually through 3D Studio? Currently, we don't have that option, but that is very good feedback. And we are looking into automating the merge meshes. So we'll definitely look into that and hopefully be able to add it into our API as well. Yes, so currently we don't have that option. We do have automatic grouping for our meshes, but for meshes like, let's see, this armchair, you will have to select those meshes and submit them to have them merged. Okay, let's try to see if we can generate a Okay, let's try this one out. Hopefully the removes the background. Let's wait a bit. Okay. Can we assign names to each mesh? So currently you're not able to rename the meshes, but that is very good feedback. If that is helpful to you, we can definitely look into that. Would you finance an indie game team with assets that are only made using this software? So if you want to reach out to our team for any projects that you think would need a custom pricing and specific needs, you can definitely reach out to us through our website. If you go to pricing, scroll down and get in touch. We do also have a form to apply for free credits, and you can tell us about your project, how you would like to use Kaedim, and we can definitely help out with a live demo and being able to talk through your project and your needs with you. I do have an example of a hand-drawn character here. So this was the image that I uploaded, which I drew on a piece of paper. As you can see, it's very simple, and it was able to produce this mesh. And I used the iterate feature to add a scarf. So I uploaded an image of a scarf and typed in add the scarf around the neck, and this was the result. And another thing to note is that you can generate objects like this as long as you generate it through Ultra. Each of the objects are fairly simple, but since there is a lot of them, I generated this in Ultra just to be able to generate all of those meshes. Will the AI understand face retopology when I want to generate a face? So our topology is usually pretty good for characters. As you can see here. And we do have a step in the pipeline with our quality assurance team to make sure that the topology is always up to standards. Can you show us the normal map for that model with the wireframe visible? Sorry, which model? The cookies and gingerbread. Okay. So for this model, all of the details are generated on the mesh. So you can see all of that through the wireframe. And we can also color these in. So our models do generate these meshes as separate, which I think is really useful for if you want to use the fill color tool or if you want to texture them. It makes it a lot easier to be able to select each of the different meshes and apply different colors to them. When I ask AI to generate a building, will it also generate the inside? So for this building, for example, it does not generate the inside because it's not shown in the input image. If you want to make the building hollow, you can definitely iterate the model and describe that change. But for things like furniture inside the building, you will have to generate that separately and add that into the model manually. Could you do a low poly version with baked normals for the details? Yes. Let's see. let's try generating. So for the generate LODs, it can't be too far from the current poly count. So let's try 190 and submit that. And this asset will show up at the top again. So every time you edit your model, it will go over here. But you can always change the sorting to when you generated it instead. Okay. So for this model, since it does have a really high poly count, the generate LODs may not process properly. So I think a better example would be this vase. So we can try the generate LODs with this vase. Are the assets airtight, watertight? Yes, they are watertight. So yes, all of the assets are generated with quads, and they're all watertight. So this is also very useful for 3D printing. If anyone is interested in 3D printing who is watching, yes, this makes it optimized for 3D printing as well. Here's an example of what I'd like to be able to view in 3D Studio: normal map and wireframe mode. This is pretty standard with 3D viewers. Yeah, that's definitely something we can look into. That's very good feedback. Hopefully we'll be able to also view the normal map in the future. Can you tell me more about how you've been using Kaedim or looking to use Kaedim? So under history as well, you'll be able to see the prompt that you've used if you want to reuse that prompt to generate another image. Are there any assets that you guys would like to see more of in the showcase? We're currently trying to add as much variety as possible so that you can compare all of the models. So, for example, we have a backpack. This might be useful for product design. Then we also have characters here. It would be helpful to inspect the model using these view options in 3D Studio before adding the model to our database. Yeah, that's a very good point. We'll definitely look into that. And we're always happy to receive feedback like this because it makes it easier for us to improve the app for our users and your specific use cases. Real world objects for architectural visualization. Nice. So for those objects, you could definitely create more realistic looking models with our ultra or high quality. We also have a new pre-modifier feature where you can view your objects, view and download your objects without the modifiers. And this just makes it easier to import your models into different programs and be able to customize them more, or customize them according to your workflow. So we understand that sometimes modifiers can make it hard to kind of fit the models into your specific workflows. So that's why we've created the pre-modifiers feature so that you're able to customize them more easily. So this is an example of a 2D character that we generated from the last stream. Do all the models generate with a basic default low poly mesh without having to do LOD? So it depends on the generation quality that you've chosen. So our standard is the lowest, has the lowest poly count, and then next is high, and the highest detailed is ultra. And you can see when you click through them that the max poly count changes. So our standard for the standard quality is 30,000 polys. High is 100,000. So with the different generation qualities, you'll see that some of the details like the accessories will be left out on the standard, and the density of the polygons are higher on the high quality and ultra. And so it really depends on your input image and which generation quality you've chosen. So just something to keep in mind if you do have a more complex input image but choose standard, you should expect that a lot of some of the accessories will be left out and some of the details as well, and you'll be able to receive a low poly mesh like this one. In other words, the basic mesh without the turbo smooth modifier applied to it. Yes, so you'll be able to view all of those assets without the pre-modifiers. oh, sorry. Or without the modifiers, using the pre-modifiers feature. So let's see. So if that works better for your workflow, for example, here is a side-by-side. You'll be able to download that by clicking here. And you'll be able to download the model before the modifiers. Clients have specific couches and they need to look exact. Yes, so for assets that you need to have the most accuracy, we recommend submitting multiple images of the different views. So we actually have an example of that in our documentation. So for example, this chair has the front, side, and back view, and this just makes it helps your output be more accurate to the input image since it has all the views. What's the difference in polygon count between those two? So you aren't able to view the polygon count for the pre-modifiers, but we can show the wireframe and see how the density looks compared to the other. Pre-mod with modifiers. So for example, this one has a simpler wireframe. And for this one, the wireframe is more complex, so it does have a lower poly count for the pre-modifiers. Are there any assets from here that you guys would like to see? I can share the link for the 3D viewer with you. Let me share this one. So yes, they won't look exact just because this doesn't have the modifiers that were applied to the final model. If you want a lower poly version, you can use the generate LODs. and it will look more similar to your original model. But yes, for pre-modifiers, there may be some differences. Christmas tree, okay. And I'm wondering how many of you haven't had the chance to try Kaedim yet, or are kind of still thinking about trying it out. If you visit our documentation, you can click this button to apply for free credits, and we would love to give you a demo and also give you some free credits to try out Kaedim. You can also just get a regular product tour and demo if you click here. And you can also find us in different social media as well. All right. So I think that should be good for our stream for today. Thank you everyone for coming by and asking questions. We love hearing all of your feedback and suggestions for future updates. We hope to see you again in the next stream. And if you have anything that we'd like to cover or that you'd like us to cover in the next stream, please let us know in the comments, or you can put them on Discord or any of our social media. We'd love to hear them, and we'll definitely cover them again in the next stream. So we're hoping to be able to do the stream every week. So we will share the time and day for each stream on our social media beforehand. And yeah, we'll keep you all updated. Thank you so much for coming to our stream. All right, bye everyone.